So as Elliott reported on Saturday, it was not a foregone conclusion that JT Miller was going to play in that game against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday. Everybody knows now the Vancouver Canucks have, in a lot of ways, made their decision, and it is we're keeping Elias Pettersson and we are moving on from JT Miller, and we are actively listening to what teams have to offer. I do, and by the way, I'm not sure if you caught Morning Cup of Hockey today. I love the way Colby mentioned Alexis Lafreniere to Johnny Lazarus. And, does this mean Lafreniere is part of the deal? Is all of a sudden Johnny Lazarus now the world's biggest Vancouver Canucks fan, or is he only a fan of Alexis Lafreniere when he plays with the New York Rangers? Like, there were a lot of, just so you know, for some context, like there was a couple of summers ago where the New York Rangers were at least listening to what the market was saying about Alexis Lafreniere, and could there be a team out there? Like, here's the thing that I wondered about with Lafreniere: is there a team out there that could do to New York what Dallas did to Boston once upon a time with Tyler Seguin? Just like steal a young player. Like that was a heist by the Dallas Stars. That was a pickpocketing by the Dallas Stars. The way they were able to pick off Tyler Seguin from the Boston Bruins. And I remember all I could think about is like, okay, so who's going to play the role of the Dallas Stars here and relieve the New York Rangers of Alexis Lafreniere? So I thought that was kind of fun too. As has been reported, Braden Schneider is someone that's the Vancouver Canucks have wanted for a while. So far, obviously, that has been a no-go. But complicating any JT Miller move here is the money. And, you look around the NHL, and we talked last week about the New Jersey Devils, right, Zach? And how they could use JT Miller. It's becoming more and more obvious as the New Jersey Devils are kind of in a swoon right now that they could use another top six forward or someone that could, albeit expensively in JT Miller's case, step in as a third-line center. Like all of a sudden, like down the middle, Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, and JT Miller looks pretty enticing. Stop the bleeding here. I like the blue line a lot. I like the goaltending a lot. It seems as if they need another forward. I think Tom Fitzgerald is a fan of JT Miller, but again, what's the money? That's got to grow out. I know that Devils fans, if there was Devils fans in the chat right now, they're screaming about Andre Palat. I would wonder about Timo Meier as well, but we'll see. New Jersey would make some sense to me as well. We know that the Dallas Stars are in the market for another forward. And depending on how you believe Liam Bichelle is going to end up this year, if you think he's going to be on the team in a top four role, or if they're going to go surfing for a defenseman, they're at least for sure looking for one more forward. And the other thing too, which may open the market for JT Miller even more, and I mentioned this in the blog today, is the Calgary Flames. We thought it was a foregone conclusion that by now the Calgary Flames would have dropped out of it. The Calgary Flames would be like, all right, we're setting up all of our teams for trade deadline here, and this is the market for Kadri, and this is the market for Anderson, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what we're going to look at. Calgary Flames don't make the playoffs. And when you're working on the frozen lines with Pierre, I was talking about Dustin Wolf and everything that he's been able to do, and are we giving him the short end of the stick here when it comes to the Calder Trophy? But it seems very much like if Calgary's taken themselves out of the trade game here, like if the Calgary Flames aren't sellers, how many teams out there now have had to widen their net? Whereas once they could have been focused on a couple of players from the Calgary Flames who looked at the beginning of the season like they were going to be in seller's mode, all of a sudden now they're not in seller's mode. So, we got to look elsewhere. Again, JT Miller has trade protection. He'd have to waive it. But I do wonder how much that does open up the market now. And teams that may not have been initially interested in JT Miller or just been lukewarm, Zach, on JT Miller now are saying, okay, Calgary's closed for business, right? Gone fishing. Don't bother calling Craig Conroy. His team's trying to make the playoffs. Yeah. Do other teams now try to get in the mix for JT Miller? And how good could this work out for the Vancouver Canucks?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If you're Vancouver, like we're talking about all these teams that are looking at JT Miller, right? The
Hmm.
part that I am very intrigued by in all of this, and they're in a little bit of a um, unfortunate situation here where, the sharks smell blood in the water. Everyone knows that something's got to happen. The player's got to be moved,
Hmm.
whether it's because he wants out or they want
Yeah.
him out, whatever. You can put it however you'd like. Everyone knows that that's the case. If you're Vancouver, what is your goal to get back? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to still make the playoffs this year? Are you
Yes.
looking for a
Yes.
piece that goes to next year?
Yes.
Like,
No, you're no,
it's
because
still it's to get
no,
serviceable players for right
because
now.
I think you're looking around the division. Like, let me just grab this up here right now. Okay, so if you're the Vancouver
Yeah.
Canucks, right now, you're 1 point out because the juggernaut Calgary Flames have that second wild card spot. Big game tonight between Colorado and Minnesota, by the way. We may see a flip-flopping of third in the Central. We'll get to that in a couple of seconds. But if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're looking at this and saying, all right, you know what? We're better than St. Louis.
Hmm.
Utah is, I mean, it's like grabbing a handful of water, right? Like, what do you have with Utah? Like, it's like the toilet seat at the Stag and Dough, like up and down and up and down. Like, what do we have here with Utah? Seattle, I mean, that's Seattle just flat out can't score. And I don't think Seattle's in, and they got bigger decisions to make here on the horizon if things don't turn around. There's no indication that it's going to, although they play the Buffalo Sabres tonight. So if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you're saying like, no, we're not looking to next year. We're not in the green banana business here. We're looking at right now. We're looking to solidify a playoff spot, knowing full well that at the end of the season there's no guarantees, and many are speculating and wondering, and I'm one of them, who don't think that Brock Boeser is going to be back. That's going to be it for Brock Boeser. He either gets moved at the deadline, or Brock Boeser rides off into the sunset at the end of the season onto other greener pastures, maybe Minnesota Wild green or pastures. So I think if you're Vancouver, like I don't think you're just looking like, yeah, let's get some futures and see if we can get Brennan Othman and Skora away from the Rangers. No, I think you're looking at, we want players because we still have a playoff push.
Why is it that how does the situation with Brock Besser not play a factor into this here, where it kind of ultimately decides the direction you're going to go in at this deadline or
What do you
approaching
mean?
this deadline or with this JT Miller? Like, if you think he could leave, you don't want
Yeah,
to lose that guy for nothing. What are
you're
you
not
going to get
losing him for
back for
nothing.
him?
You're not losing him for nothing. You want to do this one? We haven't
Yeah,
had this
let's
conversation
go.
yet. You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
gonna,
getting
I'm
in
gonna,
for cap space. Is that what you're
I'm
going to
gonna,
say?
yes, I'm gonna sound very zen here.
Yeah.
All right, remember we did the chanting a couple weeks ago here on the program. We all had to
Yeah.
calm down. Remember that we did the unite
Yes.
with the universe, the sound of the universe. It has a smell. It has we can see it. It's has a tangible sound as well. The Buddhist Om is the sound that resonates
Yes.
in the universe. Okay, nothing is a thing. Nothingness is a thing, right? Cap space is a thing. The
Hmm.
good general managers are the ones that say, I'm not losing this player for nothing. I'm losing him for the opportunity as a general manager, and I challenge myself to go find someone to fill that spot. And the successful general managers are the ones that say, you know what? I relish that challenge, and I believe in myself enough that I can go and fill that spot with a player, a serviceable player that can either, do what that player did or even better. Those are the managers that I like. I think ultimately those are the ones that are successful. You know who's great at that? Julian Brisebois.
Yeah. Yes, he
Julian
is.
Brisebois in Tampa. You want to walk away? No problem. We either find another player that's going to do that job, maybe even better, or in the case of Ryan McDonough, we're just going to bring you back one day. Now, Ryan McDonough, once again, is one of the best defensive defensemen in the entire NHL. They're facing off against the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll talk about that in a couple of moments here on the show. So it's
Yeah.
not as if you're letting him. Honestly, it took me a while to sort of unwrap my head from saying you can't let him walk for nothing, because you're not letting players walk for nothing. You're letting them walk for cap space, and that's valuable. And we all know how the
I
salary cap is
mean,
going to go up, so there's even more cap space available.
this is true. And honestly, the this conversation has been had by myself and Alberga and Rosehill here in the Toronto market about some
Yes.
expiring free agents at the end
Yes,
of
you
the
have a
season
couple
in
of them.
Toronto.
I'm familiar. One used to be captain. Yes, go on.
Right. So this is a conversation that we have had here as well. So I do
Yeah.
understand the sentiment. My only thing here, Jeff, and the reason that I kind of disagree in this situation is because the Canucks are on that bubble spot. What is the point? Do you think they have a realistic? Do you think that they realistically look at this and the playoff picture and who they would potentially face round by round and what their team looks like and maybe the health of their goaltenders and what they could get back from Miller, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and say this is a team that let's go past making the playoffs because that's great. Whoop-de-doo. We've done that for 9 years here in Toronto. That's about all we've done here. Like, there's been no more. You look elsewhere, you're going to make the playoffs, and then what's the extent of it? Is that worth it to keep the player if you get a call at the deadline and someone says they could have offered you picks for that guy? Because
listen,
do get what you're saying, and you're going to go out there and get the space, but...
Oh, if you get honestly, let's back up for 1 second. I don't want to misrepresent myself here. If they get something sizable, like if they can get a player to replace plus, then I'm all ears. But the other factor that I think we need to keep front of mind in all of this is the owner, and it's tough for any manager. Like, ask Berkey on Friday when you call him for the show what it's like in the playoff picture, and you say to your owner, you know what? I don't think we're going to go very far, so we're just going to trade some established players for some draft picks and prospects. And your owner is going to say no, and there's no reason for someone to lose their job today. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.